Francesca da Rimini, from the Divina Commedia, Inferno, by Dante Alighieri, translated from the Italian by Lord Byron. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by John Burlinson as Dante
and Anusha Iyer as Francesca.
Francesca da Rimini, from the Divina Commedia, Inferno. And then I turned unto their side my eyes, and said, Francesca, thy sad destinies have made me sorrow till the tears arise. But tell me, in the season of sweet sighs, by what and how thy love to passion rose, so as his dim desires to recognize. Then she to me,
The greatest of all woes is to remind us of our happy days in misery, and that thy teacher knows. But if to learn our passion's first root praise upon thy spirit with such sympathy, I will do even as he who weeps and says. We read one day for pastime, seated nigh, of Lancelot, how love enchained him too. We were alone, quite unsuspiciously, but oft our eyes met, and our cheeks in hue, all over discoloured by that reading were but one point only wholly us overthrew. When we read the long sighed for smile of her, to be thus kissed by such devoted lover, he who from me can be divided never, kissed my mouth, trembling in the act all over. Accursed was the book and he who wrote. That day, no further leaf we did uncover. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Dinna Ask Me by John Dunlop, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Dinna Ask Me. Oh, dinna ask me gin I love ye, troth I dare nae tell. Dinna ask me gin I love ye, ask it o yoursel. Oh, dinna look sae sair at me, for weel ye ken me true. Oh, gin ye look sae sair at me, I dare nae look at you. When ye gang to yon bro town, and bon your lassie see, oh, dinna, Jamie, look at me, lest ye should mind nae me. For I could never bide the lass that ye'd loe mair than me, and oh, I'm sure my heart would break, gin ye'd prove false to me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
O Swallow, Swallow, Flying South, from The Princess, by Alfred, Lord Tennyson, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Sandra Schmit. O swallow, swallow, flying south, from The Princess. O swallow, swallow, flying, flying south, fly to her and fall upon her gilded eaves, and tell her what I tell to thee. O tell her, swallow, thou that knowest each, that bright and fierce and fickle is the south, and dark and true and tender is the north. O swallow, swallow, if I could follow and light upon her lattice, I would pipe and trill, and cheep and twitter 20,000,000 loves. O were I thou that she might take me in, and lay me on her bosom, and her heart would rock the snowy cradle till I died. Why lingereth she to clothe her heart with love, delaying, as the tender ash delays to clothe herself when all the woods are green? O tell her, swallow, that thy brood is flown. Say to her, I do but wanton in the south, but in the north long since my nest is made. O tell her, brief is life, but love is long, and brief the sun of summer in the north, and brief the moon of beauty in the south. O swallow, flying from the golden woods, fly to her, and pipe and woo her and make her mine, and tell her that I follow thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song from the Miller's Daughter by Lord Alfred Tennyson, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Lian. Song. It is the miller's daughter, and she is grown so dear, that I would be the jewel that trembles at her ear. For, hid in the ringlets day and night, I touch her neck, so warm and white, and I would be the girdle about her dainty, dainty waist, and her heart would beat against me in sorrow and in rest, and I should know if it beat right, I'd clasp it round so close and tight. And I would be the necklace, and all day long to fall and rise upon her balmy bosom, with her laughter or her sighs, and I would lie so light, I scarce should be unclasped at night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
If Doughty Deeds My Lady Please, by Robert Graham of Gartmore. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. If Doughty Deeds My Lady Please. If Doughty Deeds my lady please, right soon I'll mount my steed, and strong his arms and fast his seat that bears frae me the mead. I'll wear thy colours in my cap, thy picture at my heart, and he that bends not to thine eyes shall rue it to his smart. Then tell me how to woo thee, love, or tell me how to woo thee, for thy dear sake nae care I'll take, though ne'er another true me. If gay attire delight thine eye, I'll dight me in array, I'll tend thy chamber door all night, and squire thee all the day. If sweetest sounds can win thine ear, these sounds I'll strive to catch, thy voice I'll steal to woo thy sell, that voice that nane can match. But if fond love thy heart can gain, I'll never broke a vow, nae maiden lays her skaith to me, I'll never love but you. For you alone I strive to sing. O tell me how to woo, then tell me how to woo thee, love. O tell me how to woo thee, for thy dear sake nae care I'll take, though ne'er another true me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Kiss by Robert Herrick, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer as Speaker 1,
Sonia as Speaker 2,
and Sandra Schmit as the chorus.
The Kiss. Among thy fancies, tell me this, what is the thing we call a kiss?
I shall resolve you what it is. It is a creature born and bred between the lips all cherry red, by love and warm desires fed,
and makes more soft the bridal bed.
It is an active flame that flies first to the babies of the eyes, and charms them there with lullabies,
and stills the bride too when she cries.
Then to the chin, the cheek, the ear, it frisks and flies, now here, now there, 'tis now far off, and then 'tis near,
and here, and there, and everywhere.
Has it a speaking virtue?
Yes.
How speaks it, say?
Do you but this, part your joined lips, then speaks your kiss.
And this love's sweetest language is.
Has it a body?
Aye, and wings, with thousand rare colourings, and as it flies, it gently sings.
Love honey yields, but never stings. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Opal by Ednah Procter Clarke Hayes. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. An opal. A rose of fire shut in a veil of snow, an April gleam athwart a misted sky, a jewel, a soul. Gaze deep if thou wouldst know the flame-wrought spell of its pale witchery. And now each tremulous beauty lies revealed, and now the drifted snow doth beauty shield. So my shy love, aneath her kerchief white, holdeth the glamour of the East in fee, warm Puritan, who fears her own delight, who trembleth over that she yieldeth me. And now her lips her heart's rich flame have told, and now they pale that they have been so bold. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Cupid and Campaspe, from Alexander and Campaspe, Act 3, Scene 5, by John Lyly, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Cupid and Campaspe, from Alexander and Campaspe, Act 3, Scene 5. Cupid and my Campaspe played at cards for kisses. Cupid paid. He stakes his quiver, bow, and arrows, his mother's doves, and team of sparrows, loses them too. Then down he throws the coral of his lip, the rose growing on his cheek, but none knows how. With these the crystal of his brow, and then the dimple of his chin. All these did my Campaspe win. At last he set her both his eyes. She won, and Cupid blind did rise. O love, has she done this to thee? What shall, alas, become of me? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Kisses by William Strode, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. Kisses. My love and I for kisses played. She would keep stakes. I was content. But when I won, she would be paid. This made me ask her what she meant. Pray, since I see, quoth she, your wrangling vain, take your own kisses, give me mine again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love's Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Love's Philosophy. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine in one another's being mingle. Why not I with thine? See, the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What are all these kissings worth, if thou kiss not me? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Kissing's No Sin by Anonymous, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. Kissing's No Sin. Some say that kissing's a sin, but I think it's nane of her, for kissing has won in this world since ever there was to her. Or, if it wasn't lawful, lawyers wouldna allow it, If it wasna holy, ministers wadna do it. If it wasna modest, maidens wouldna take it. If it wasna plenty, pure folk wouldna get it.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song of the Milkmaid from Queen Mary by Alfred, Lord Tennyson. From The World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sandra Schmit. Song of the Milkmaid from Queen Mary. Shame upon you, Robin, shame upon you now. Kiss me, would you, with my hands milking the cow? Daisies grow again, kingcups blow again, and you came and kissed me milking the cow. Robin came behind me, kissed me well, I vow. Cuff him, could I, with my hands milking the cow? Swallows fly again, cuckoos cry again, and you came and kissed me milking the cow. Come, Robin, Robin, come and kiss me now. Help it, can I, with my hands milking the cow? Ringdoves coo again, all things woo again. Come behind and kiss me milking the cow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Comin' Through the Rye, adapted from Robert Burns, from The World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Comin' Through the Rye. Gin a body meet a body comin' through the rye. Gin a body kiss a body, need a body cry. Every lassie has her laddie nearer in her eye. Yet a' the lads they smile at me when comin' through the rye. Among the train there is a swain I dearly lo'e myself. But what his hame or what his name I dinna care to tell. Gin a body meet a body comin' frae the town. Gin a body greet a body, need a body frown. Every lassie has her laddie nearer in her eye. Yet a' the lads they smile at me when comin' through the rye. Among the train there is a swain I dearly lo'e mysel'. But what his hame or what his name I dinna care to tell. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Whistle, and I'll Come to You, My Lad, by Robert Burns, from The World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad, though father and mither and I should gae mad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad, but warily tent when ye come to court me, and come na unless the back yet be a G. Sign up the back stile, and let naebody see, and come as ye werena comin' to me, and come as ye werena comin' to me. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad, though father and mither and I should go mad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. At kirk or at market, whene'er ye meet me, gang by me as though that ye carena a flea, but steal me a blink o' your bonny black ee, yet look as ye werena looking at me. Yet look as ye werena looking at me. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad, though father and mither and I should go mad. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. I vow and protest that ye care nae for me, and whiles ye may lightly my beauty awee, but cart nae anither, though joking ye be, for fear that she wile your fancy frae me, for fear that she wile your fancy frae me. O whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad, O whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad, though father and mither and I should gae mad. O whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet upon a Stolen Kiss by George Wither. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. Sonnet upon a Stolen Kiss. Now gentle sleep hath closed up those eyes, which waking kept my boldest thoughts in awe, and free access unto that sweet lip lies, from whence I long the rosy breath to draw. Methinks no wrong it were, if I should steal from those two melting rubies one poor kiss. None sees the theft that would the theft reveal, nor rob I her of aught what she can miss. Nay, should I 20 kisses take away, there would be little sign I would do so. Why then should I this robbery delay? Oh, she may awake, and therewith angry grow. Well, if she do, I'll back restore that one, and 20,000,000 more for loan. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Caprice by William Dean Howells. From The World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer as the narrator
and Sonia as the maiden.
Caprice 1. She hung the cage at the window.
If he goes by,
she said,
he will hear my robin singing, and when he lifts his head, I shall be sitting here to sew, and he will bow to me, I know.
The robin sang a love-sweet song. The young man raised his head. The maiden turned away and blushed.
I'm a fool,
she said, and went on broidering in silk a pink-eyed rabbit, white as milk. 2. The young man loitered slowly by the house 3 times that day. She took her bird from the window.
He need not look this way.
She sat at her piano long, and sighed, and played a death-sad song. But when the day was done, she said,
I wish that he would come. Remember, Mary, if he calls tonight, I'm not at home.
So when he rang, she went. The elf! She went and let him in herself. 3. They sang full long together, their songs, love-sweet, death-sad. The robin woke from his slumber, and rang out, clear and glad.
Now go,
she coldly said,
'tis late,
and followed him to latch the gate. He took the rosebud from her hair, while,
you shall not,
she said, he closed her hand within his own, and while her tongue forbade, her will was darkened in the eclipse of blinding love upon his lips. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sly Thoughts by Coventry Patmore. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer.
And Gaby.
Sly Thoughts. I saw him kiss your cheek.
'Tis true.
Oh, modesty!
'Twas strictly kept. He thought me asleep, at least I knew. He thought he thought I slept. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Whistle by Robert Story. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia as the narrator,
Thomas Peter as the youth,
and Anusha Iyer as the sweetheart.
The Whistle.
You have heard,
said a youth to his sweetheart who stood while he sat on a corn sheaf at daylight's decline.
You have heard of the Danish boy's whistle of wood. I wish that the Danish boy's whistle were mine.
And what would you do with it? Tell me,
she said, while an arch smile played over her beautiful face.
I would blow it,
he answered,
and then my fair maid would fly to my side, and would here take her place.
Is that all you wish it for? That may be yours without any magic.
The fair maiden cried.
A favour so slight one's good nature secures.
And she playfully seated herself by his side.
I would blow it again,
said the youth,
and the charm would work so that not even modesty's check would be able to keep from my neck your fine arm.
She smiled, and she laid her fine arm round his neck.
Yet once more would I blow, and the music divine would bring me the third time an exquisite bliss. You would lay your fair cheek to this brown one of mine, and your lips, stealing past it, would give me a kiss.
The maiden laughed out in her innocent glee.
What a fool of yourself with your whistle you'd make! For only consider how silly 'twould be to sit there and whistle for what you might take.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Behave Yourself Before Folk by Alexander Roger. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. And dinna be sae rude to me as kiss me sae before folk. It wouldna give me mickle pain gin we were seen and heard by nane to take a guess or grant you in, but good sake, not before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Whate'er you do and out of you, be cautious aye before folk. Consider loud how folks will crack, and what a great affair they'll mak, o' naething but a simple smack that's gin or ta'en before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk, nor gie the tongue o' old and young occasion to come o'er folk. I'm sure wi' you I've been as free as ony modest lass should be, but yet it doesna do to me sic freedom used before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. I'll ne'er submit again to it, so mind you that before folk. Ye tell me that my face is fair, it may be sae, I dinna care, but ne'er again gat blush so sair as ye hae done before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Nor heat my cheeks wi' your mad freaks, but I be douce before folk. Ye tell me that my lips are sweet, sic tales I doubt are a deceit. At ony rate it's hardly meet to pry their sweets before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Gin that's the case, there's time and place, but surely not before folk. But gin ye really do insist that I should suffer to be kissed, ye get a license frae the priest and mak me yours before folk. Behave yourself before folk. Behave yourself before folk. And when we're ane, baith flesh and bane, ye may take tin before folk. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Smile and Never Heed Me by Charles Swain. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sandra Schmit. Smile and never heed me. Though, when other maids stand by, I may deign thee no reply, turn not then away and sigh. Smile and never heed me. For our love, indeed, be such as must thrill at every touch. Why should others learn as much? Smile, and never heed me. Even if with maiden pride I should bid thee quit my side, take this lesson for thy guide, smile, and never heed me. But when stars and twilight meet, and the dew is falling sweet, and thou hear'st my coming feet, then, thou then mayst heed me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Jewels I' This Bonnet O' Mine by Edwin Waugh. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. The Jewels I' This Bonnet O' Mine.
The jewels I' this bonnet o' mine, my ribbons'll never be reet. Here, Molly, I'm like to be fine, for Jamie'll be coming to neat. He met me at the lawn t'other day, I were going for water to the well, and he begged that I'd wed him in May. By the mass, if you'll let me, I will. When he took my 2 hands in his, good Lord, how they trembled between, and I durst not look up at his face, because on him seeing my een. My cheek went as red as a rose, there's never a mortal can tell how happy I felt for thy nose, one couldn't have asked him thisel. But the tail were at the end of my tongue, till it ate wouldn't be reet, for I thought to seem furrowed were wrong, so I told him I'd tell him to neat. But Mary, thy knows very well, though it isn't a thing one should own, if I owed the pecking of the world to myself, I'd rather have Jamie or none. Near Molly, I'd have told thee my mind, what would to do if it were thee? I'd take him just while he's inclined, and apparently bargain he'll be. For Jamie's as greedily a lad as ever steered out in the sun. Go jump at that chance and get wed, and make the best of the job when it's done. Eh dear, but it's time to be going. I shouldn't like Jamie to wait, or cannot for shame be too soon, and I wouldn't for the world be too late. I'm over a tremble to the heel. Dost think what my bonnet'll do? Be off, lass, thou looks very well. He wants none of the bonnet, thou fool. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Spinster's Stint by Alice Carey. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. A Spinster's Stint. 6 skeins and 3, 6 skeins and 3. Good mother, so you stinted me, and here they be, aye, 6 and 3. Stop, busy wheel, stop, noisy wheel. Long shadows down my chamber steal, and warn me to make haste and reel. 'Tis done, the spinning work complete. O heart of mine, what makes you beat so fast and sweet, so fast and sweet? I must have wheat and pinks to stick my hat from brim to ribbon, thick. Slow hands of mine, be quick, be quick. 1, 2, 3 stars along the skies begin to wink their golden eyes. I'll leave my thread all knots and ties. O moon so red, O moon so red, sweetheart of night, go straight to bed. Love's light will answer in your stead. A tiptoe beckoning me, he stands. Stop trembling, little foolish hands, and stop the bands, and stop the bands. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Telltale by Elizabeth Akers. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. The Telltale. Once, on a golden afternoon, with radiant faces and hearts in tune, two fond lovers in dreaming mood threaded a rural solitude. Wholly happy, they only knew that the earth was bright and the sky was blue, that light and beauty and joy and song charmed the way as they passed along. The air was fragrant with woodland scents. The squirrel frisked on the roadside fence, and hovering near them, chee, chee, chink, queried the curious bobolink, pausing and peering with sidelong head, as saucily questioning all they said, while the ox-eye danced on its slender stem, and all glad nature rejoiced with them. Over the odorous fields were strown wilting windrows of grass new mown, and rosy billows of clover bloom surged in the sunshine and breathed perfume. Swinging low on a slender limb, the sparrow warbled his wedding hymn, and, balancing on a blackberry briar, the bobolink sung with his heart on fire, chink! If you wish to kiss her, do it, do it! You coward, you! Kiss her, kiss her! Who will see? Only we three, we three, we three! Under garlands of drooping vines, through dim vistas of sweet-breathed pines, past wide meadow fields, lately mowed, wandered the indolent country road. The lovers followed it, listening still, and, loitering slowly, as lovers will, entered a low-roofed bridge that lay, dusky and cool in their pleasant way. Under its arch a smooth brown stream silently glided, with glint and gleam, shaded by graceful elms that spread their verdurous canopy overhead. The stream so narrow, the boughs so wide, they met and mingled across the tide. Alders loved it, and seemed to keep patient watch as it lay asleep, mirroring clearly the trees and sky, and the flitting form of the dragonfly, save where the swift-winged swallow played in and out in the sun and shade, and darting and circling in merry chase, dipped and dimpled its clear dark face. Fluttering lightly from brink to brink, followed the garrulous bobolink, rallying loudly with mirthful din, the pair who lingered unseen within. And when from the friendly bridge at last into the road beyond they passed, again beside them the tempter went, keeping the thread of his argument. Kiss her, chink-a-chee-chee, I'll not mention it, don't mind me. I'll be sentinel, I can see all around from this tall birch tree. But they noted, nor deemed it strange, in his rollicking chorus a trifling change. Do it, with might and main, warbled the telltale, do it again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love in the Valley by George Meredith. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Love in the Valley. Under yonder beech tree, standing on the green sward, couched with her arms behind her little head, her knees folded up, and her tresses on her bosom, lies my young love, sleeping in the shade. Had I the heart to slide one arm beneath her, press her dreaming lips as her waist I folded slow, waking on the instant she could not but embrace me, would she hold me and never let me go? Shy as the squirrel and wayward as the swallow, swift as the swallow when athwart the western flood, circleting the surface, he meets his mirrored winglets, is that dear one in her maiden bud. Shy as the squirrel whose nest is in the pine tops, gentle, Ah, that she were jealous as the dove! Full of all the wildness of the woodland creatures, happy in herself is the maiden that I love. What can have taught her distrust of all I tell her? Can she truly doubt me when looking on my brows? Nature never teaches distrust of tender love tales. What can have taught her distrust of all my vows? No, she does not doubt me. On a dewy eventide, whispering together beneath the listening moon, I prayed till her cheek flushed, implored till she faltered, fluttered to my bosom, ah, to fly away so soon. When her mother tends her before the laughing mirror, tying up her laces, looping up her hair, often she thinks, were this wild thing wedded, I should have more love and much less care. When her mother tends her before the bashful mirror, loosening her laces, combing down her curls, often she thinks, were this wild thing wedded, I should lose but one for so many boys and girls. Clambering roses peep into her chamber, jasmine and woodbine breathe sweet, sweet, white-necked swallows twittering of summer fill her with balm and nested peace from head to feet. Ah, will the rose bough see her lying lonely, when the petals fall and fierce bloom is on the leaves? Will the autumn garners see her still ungathered, when the fickle swallows forsake the weeping eaves? Comes a sudden question, should a strange hand pluck her? Oh, what an anguish smites me at the thought! Should some idle lordling bribe her mind with jewels, can such beauty ever thus be bought? Sometimes the huntsmen, prancing down the valley, eye the village lasses, full of sprightly mirth. They see, as I see, mine is the fairest. Would she were older, and could read my worth. Are there not sweet maidens, if she still deny me? Show the bridal heavens but one bright star? Wherefore thus then do I chase a shadow, clattering one note like a brown eve jar? So I rhyme and reason till she darts before me, through the milky meadows from flower to flower she flies, sunning her sweet palms to shade her dazzled eyelids from the golden love that looks too eager in her eyes. When at dawn she wakens, and her fair face gazes out on the weather through the window panes, beauteous she looks, like a white water lily bursting out of bud on the rippled river plains. When from bed she rises, clothed from neck to ankle in her long nightgown, sweet as boughs of May, beauteous she looks, like a tall garden lily, pure from the night and perfect for the day. Happy, happy time when the grey star twinkles over the fields all fresh with bloomy dew, when the cold-cheeked dawn grows ruddy up the twilight, and the gold sun wakes and weds her in the blue. Then, when my darling tempts the early breezes, she the only star that dies not with the dark, powerless to speak all the ardour of my passion, I catch her little hand as we listen to the lark. Shall the birds in vain then valentine their sweethearts, season after season tell a fruitless tale? Will not the virgin listen to their voices, take the honeyed meaning, wear the bridal veil? Fears she frosts of winter, fears she the bare branches, waits she the garlands of spring for her dower? Is she a nightingale that will not be nested till the April woodland has built her bridal bower? Then come, merry April, with all thy birds and beauties, with thy crescent brows and thy flowery, showery glee, with thy budding leafage and fresh green pastures, and may thy lustrous crescent grow a honeymoon for me. Come, merry month of the cuckoo and the violet, come, weeping loveliness in all thy blue delight. Lo, the nest is ready, let me not languish longer. Bring her to my arms on the first May night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Thoughts on the Commandments by George Augustus Baker, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Thoughts on the Commandments. Love your neighbour as yourself, so the parson preaches. That's one half the Decalogue, so the prayer book teaches. Half my duty I can do with but little labour, for with all my heart and soul I do love my neighbour. Mighty little credit that to my self-denial, not to love her though might be something of a trial. Why, the rosy light that peeps through the glass above her lingers round her lips, you see in the sunbeams love her. So to make my merit more, I'll go beyond the letter. Love my neighbour as myself? Yes, and 10 times better, for she's sweeter than the breath of the spring that passes through the fragrant budding woods or the meadow grasses. And I've preached the word I know, for it was my duty to convert the stubborn heart of the little beauty. Once again success has crowned missionary labour, for her sweet eyes own that she also loves her neighbour. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Love Knot by Nora Perry from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. The Love Knot. Tying her bonnet under her chin, she tied her raven ringlets in. But not alone in the silken snare did she catch her lovely floating hair. For, tying her bonnet under her chin, she tied a young man's heart within. They were strolling together up the hill, where the wind came blowing merry and chill, and it blew the curls of frolicsome race all over the happy peach-coloured face, till scolding and laughing she tied them in under her beautiful dimpled chin. And it blew a colour, bright as the bloom of the pinkest fuchsia's tossing plume, all over the cheeks of the prettiest girl that ever imprisoned a romping curl, or, in tying her bonnet under her chin, tied a young man's heart within. Steeper and steeper grew the hill, madder, merrier, chiller still. The western wind blew down, and played the wildest tricks with the little maid, as, tying her bonnet under her chin, she tied a young man's heart within. O western wind, do you think it was fair to play such tricks with her floating hair? To gladly, gleefully do your best to blow her against the young man's breast, where he has gladly folded her in, and kissed her mouth and dimpled chin? O Ellery vain, you little thought, an hour ago, when you besought this country lass to walk with you, after the sun had dried the dew, what terrible danger you'd be in, as she tied her bonnet under her chin. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Chessboard by Robert Bulwer, Lord Lytton, Owen Meredith. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. The Chessboard. My little love, do you remember, ere we were grown so sadly wise, those evenings in the bleak December, curtained warm from the snowy weather, when you and I played chess together, checkmated by each other's eyes? Ah, still I see your soft white hand hovering warm o'er queen and knight. Brave pawns in valiant battle stand. The double castles guard the wings. The bishop, bent on distant things, moves sidling through the fight. Our fingers touch, our glances meet and falter. Falls your golden hair against my cheek. Your bosom sweet is heaving. Down the field your queen rides slow, her soldiery all between, and checks me unaware. Ah me, the little battle's done, dispersed is all its chivalry. Full many a move since then have we made life's perplexing checkers made, and many a game with fortune played. What is it we have won? This at least, if this alone, that never, never, never more, as in those old still nights of yore, ere we were grown so sadly wise, can you and I shut out the skies, shut out the world and wintry weather, and, eyes exchanging warmth with eyes, play chess as then we played together. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Her Letter by Bret Harte. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Her Letter. I'm sitting alone by the fire, dressed just as I came from the dance, in a robe even you would admire. It cost a cool 1,000 in France. I'm bediamonded out of all reason. My hair is done up in a queue. In short, sir, the belle of the season is wasting an hour on you. A dozen engagements I've broken, I left in the midst of a set, likewise a proposal half spoken that waits on the stairs for me yet. They say he'll be rich when he grows up, and then he adores me indeed, and you, sir, are turning your nose up 3,000 miles off as you read. And how do I like my position? And what do I think of New York? And now in my higher ambition, with whom do I waltz, flirt, or talk? And isn't it nice to have riches, and diamonds and silks and all that? And aren't it a change to the ditches and tunnels of poverty flat? Well, yes, if you saw us out driving each day in the park, four in hand, if you saw poor dear mamma contriving to look supernaturally grand, if you saw papa's picture as taken by Brady and tinted at that, you'd never suspect he sold bacon and flour at Poverty Flat. And yet, just this moment when sitting in the glare of the grand chandelier, in the bustle and glitter befitting the finest soirée of the year, in the mists of a gaz de Chambéry, and the hum of the smallest of talk, somehow, Joe, I thought of the ferry, and the dance that we had on the Fork. Of Harrison's barn with its muster of flags festooned over the wall, of the candles that shed their soft lustre, and tallow on headdress and shawl, of the steps that we took to one fiddle, of the dress of my queer vis-a-vis, and how I once went down the middle with the man that shot Sandy McGee, of the moon that was quietly sleeping on the hill when the time came to go, of the few baby peaks that were peeping from under their bedclothes of snow, of that ride that to me was the rarest, of the something you said at the gate. Ah, Joe, then I wasn't an heiress to the best paying lad in the state. Well, well, it's all past, yet it's funny to think as I stood in the glare of fashion and beauty and money, that I should be thinking right there of someone who breasted high water and swam the North Fork and all that, just to dance with old Follinsby's daughter, the lily of Poverty Flat. But goodness, what nonsense I'm writing! Mamma says my taste still is low. Instead of my triumphs reciting, I'm spooning on Joseph, hi-ho! And I'm to be finished by travel, whatever's the meaning of that. Oh, why did papa strike pay gravel in drifting on Poverty Flat? Good night, here's the end of my paper. Good night, if the longitude please. For maybe, while wasting my taper, your son's climbing over the trees. But know, if you haven't got riches, and are poor, dearest Joe, and all that, that my heart's somewhere there in the ditches, and you've struck it on Poverty Flat. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Plaidie by Charles Sibley. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. By Thomas Peter. The Plaidie. Upon ane stormy Sunday, coming adown the lane, were a score of bonny lasses, and the sweetest I maintain was Caddy, that I took aneath my plaidie to shield her from the rain. She said that the daisies blushed for the kiss that I had ta'en. I winna thought the lassie would say of a kiss complain. Now, laddie, I winna stay under your plaidie if I gang hame in the rain. But on an after Sunday, when cloud there was not ane, the self-same winsome lassie, we chanced to meet in the lane, said, Laddie, why dinna ye wear your plaidie? Wha kens but it may rain? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Kitty of Coleraine by Charles Dawson Shanley. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter as the narrator.
And Sonia as Kitty.
Kitty of Coleraine. As beautiful Kitty one morning was tripping with a pitcher of milk from the fair of Coleraine. When she saw me she stumbled, the pitcher it tumbled, and all the sweet buttermilk watered the plain.
Oh, what shall I do now? 'Twas looking at you now. Sure, such a pitcher I'll never meet again. 'Twas the pride of my dairy. Oh, Barney McCleary, you're sent as a plague to the girls of Coleraine.
I sat down beside her, and gently did chide her that such a misfortune should give her such pain. A kiss then I gave her, and ere I did leave her, she vowed for such pleasure she'd break it again. 'Twas hay-making season, I can't tell the reason, misfortunes will never come single, 'tis plain. For very soon after poor Kitty's disaster, the devil a pitcher was whole in Coleraine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Kitty Nail by John Francis Waller. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia as the narrator.
And Thomas Peter as Pat.
Kitty Nail.
Ah, sweet Kitty Nail, rise up from the wheel. Your neat little foot will be weary with spinning. Come trip down with me to the sycamore tree. Half the parish is there, and the dance is beginning. The sun is gone down, but the full harvest moon shines sweetly and cool on the dew-whitened valley, while all the air rings with the soft loving things each little bird sings in the green shaded alley.
With a blush and a smile, Kitty rose up the while, her eye in the glass as she bound her hair, glancing. 'Tis hard to refuse when a young lover sues, so she couldn't but choose to go off to the dancing. And now on the green the glad groups are seen, each gay-hearted lad with the lass of his choosing, and Pat, without fail, leads out sweet Kitty Nail. Somehow, when he asked, she never thought of refusing. Now Felix McGee put his pipes to his knee, and with flourish so free sets each couple in motion. With a cheer and a bound the lads patter the ground, the maids move around just like swans on the ocean. Cheeks bright as the rose, feet light as the does, now coyly retiring, now boldly advancing, search the world all around, from the sky to the ground. No such sight can be found as an Irish lass dancing. Sweet Kate, who could view your bright eyes of deep blue, beaming humidly through their dark lashes so mildly, your fair turned arm, heaving breast, rounded form, nor feel his heart warm, and his pulses throb wildly. Young Pat feels his heart, as he gazes, depart, subdued by the smart of such painful yet sweet love. The sight leaves his eye, as he cries with a sigh,
Dawn's light, for my heart lies under your feet, love.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Little Milliner by Robert Buchanan. From The World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sandra Schmit. The Little Milliner. My girl has violet eyes and yellow hair, a soft hand, like a lady's, small and fair, a sweet face pouting in a white straw bonnet, a tiny foot and little boot upon it. And all her finery to charm beholders is the grey shawl drawn tight around her shoulders. The plain stuff gown and collar white as snow, and sweet red petticoat that peeps below. But gladly in the busy town goes she, summer and winter, fearing nobody. She pats the pavement with her fairy feet, with fearless eyes she charms the crowded street, and in her pocket lie, in lieu of gold, a lucky sixpence and a thimble old. We lodged in the same house a year ago, she on the topmost floor, I just below. She a poor milliner, content and wise, I a poor city clerk, with hopes to rise. And long ere we were friends, I learned to love the little angel on the floor above. For every morn, ere from my bed I stirred, her chamber door would open, and I heard, and listened, blushing, to her coming down, and palpitated with her rustling gown, and tingled while her foot went downward slow, creaked like a cricket, passed, and died below. Then, peeping from the window, pleased and sly, I saw the pretty shining face go by, healthy and rosy, fresh from slumber sweet, a sunbeam in the quiet morning street. And every night, when in from work she tripped, red to the ears, I from my chamber slipped, that I might hear upon the narrow stair her low "Good evening," as she passed me there. And when her door was closed, below sat I, and hearkened stilly as she stirred on high, watched the red firelight shadows in the room, fashioned her face before me in the gloom, and heard her close the window, lock the door, moving about more lightly than before, and thought, she's undressing now. And oh, my cheeks were hot, my heart was in a glow, and I made pictures of her, standing bright before the looking-glass in bedgown white, unbinding in a knot her yellow hair, then kneeling timidly to say a prayer, till, last, the floor creaked softly overhead, 'neath bare feet, tripping to the little bed, and all was hushed. Yet still I hearkened on, till the faint sounds about the streets were gone, and saw her slumbering with lips apart, one little hand upon her little heart, the other pillowing a face that smiled in slumber like the slumber of a child, the bright hair shining round the small white ear, the soft breath stealing visible and clear, and mixing with the moon's, whose frosty gleam made round her rest a vaporous light of dream. How free she wandered in the wicked place, protected only by her gentle face. She saw bad things, how could she choose but see? She heard of wantonness and misery, the city closed around her night and day, but lightly, happily, she went her way. Nothing of evil that she saw or heard could touch a heart so innocently stirred by simple hopes that cheered it through the storm, and little flutterings that kept it warm. No power had she to reason out her needs, to give the whence and wherefore of her deeds, but she was good and pure amid the strife, by virtue of the joy that was her life. Here, where 1,000 spirits daily fall, where heart and soul and senses turn to gall, she floated, pure as innocent could be, like a small sea-bird on a stormy sea, which breasts the billows, wafted to and fro, fearless, uninjured, while the strong winds blow, while clouds gather and the waters roar, and mighty ships are broken on the shore. All winter long, witless who peeped the while, she sweetened the chill mornings with her smile, when the soft snow was falling dimly white, shining among it with a child's delight, bright as a rose, though nipping winds might blow, and leaving fairy footprints in the snow. 'Twas when the spring was coming, when the snow had melted and fresh winds began to blow, and girls were selling violets in the town, that suddenly a fever struck me down. The world was changed, the sense of life was pained, and nothing but the shadowland remained. Death came in a dark mist and looked at me. I felt his breathing, though I couldn't see, but heavily I lay and did not stir, and had strange images and dreams of her. Then came a vacancy. With feeble breath I shivered under the cold touch of death, and swooned among strange visions of the dead, when a voice called from heaven, and he fled, and suddenly awakened, as it seemed from a deep sleep wherein I had not dreamed. And it was night, and I could see and hear, and I was in the room I held so dear, and unaware, stretched out upon my bed, I hearkened for a footstep overhead. But all was hushed. I looked around the room, and slowly made out shapes amid the gloom. The wall was reddened by a rosy light, a faint fire flickered, and I knew it was night, because below there was a sound of feet dying away along the quiet street, when, turning my pale face and sighing low, I saw a vision in the quiet glow, a little figure in a cotton gown, looking upon the fire and stooping down. Her side to me, her face illumed, she eyed two chestnuts burning slowly side by side, her lips apart, her clear eyes strained to see, her little hands clasped tight around her knee, the firelight gleaming on her golden head and tinting her white neck to rosy red, her features bright and beautiful and pure, with childish fear and yearning half demure. Oh, sweet, sweet dream, I thought, and strained mine eyes, fearing to break the spell with words and sighs. Softly she stooped, her dear face sweetly fair, and sweeter since a light like love was there, brightening, watching, more and more elate, as the nuts glowed together in the grate, crackling with little jets of fiery light, till side by side they turned to ashes white. Then up she leapt, her face cast off its fear for rapture that itself was radiance clear, and would have clapped her little hands in glee, but, pausing, bit her lips and peeped at me, and met the face that yearned on her so whitely, and gave a cry and trembled, blushing brightly, while raised on elbow, as she turned to flee, "Polly!" I cried, and grew as red as she. It was no dream, for soon my thoughts were clear, and she could tell me all, and I could hear, how in my sickness friendless I had lain, how the hard people pitied not my pain, how in despite of what bad people said, she left her labours, stopped beside my bed, and nursed me, thinking sadly I would die, how in the end the danger passed me by, how she had sought to steal away before the sickness passed, and I was strong once more. By fits she told the story in mine ear, and troubled all the telling with a fear, lest by my cold man's heart she should be chid, lest I should think her bold in what she did. But lying on my bed, I dared to say how I had watched and loved her many a day, how dear she was to me, and dearer still for that strange kindness done while I was ill, and how I could but think that heaven above had done it all to bind our lives in love. And Polly cried, turning her face away, and seemed afraid, and answered, "Yea," nor "Nay." Then stealing close with little pants and sighs, looked on my pale thin face and earnest eyes, and seemed in act to fling her arms about my neck, then, blushing, paused in fluttering doubt, last sprang upon my heart, sighing and sobbing, that I might feel how gladly hers was throbbing. Ah, never shall I forget until I die how happy the dreamy days went by, while I grew well and lay with soft heart-beats, hearkening the pleasant murmur from the streets, and Polly by me like a sunny beam, and life all changed, and love a drowsy dream. 'Twas happiness enough to lie and see the little golden head bend droopingly over its sewing, while the still time flew, and my fond eyes were dim with happy dew. And then, when I was nearly well and strong, and she went back to labour all day long, how sweet to lie alone with half-shut eyes, and hear the distant murmurs and the cries, and think how pure she was from pain and sin, and how the summer days were coming in. Then, as the sunset faded from the room, to listen for her footstep in the gloom, to pant as it came stealing up the stair, to feel my whole life brighten unaware when the soft tap came to the door, and when the door was opened for her smile again. Best the long evenings, when till late at night she sat beside me in the quiet light, and happy things were said and kisses won, and serious gladness found its vent in fun. Sometimes I would draw close her shining head, and pour her bright hair out upon the bed, and she would laugh and blush and try to scold, while, "Here," I cried, "I count my wealth in gold." Once, like a little sinner for transgression, she blushed upon my breast, and made confession, how, when that night I woke and looked around, I found her busy with a charm profound. One chestnut was herself, my girl confessed, the other was the person she loved best, and if they burned together side by side, he loved her, and she would become his bride. And burn indeed they did, to her delight, and had the pretty charm not proved right? Thus much, and more, with timorous joy she said, while her confessor, too, grew rosy red, and close together pressed two blissful faces, as I absolved the sinner with embraces. And here is winter come again. Winds blow, the houses and the streets are white with snow, and in the long and pleasant eventide, why, what is Polly making at my side? What but a silk gown, beautiful and grand, we bought together lately in the Strand? What but a dress to go to church in soon, and wear right queenly 'neath a honeymoon? And who shall match her with her new straw bonnet, her tiny foot and little boot upon it, embroidered petticoat and silk gown new, and shawl she wears as few fine ladies do? And she will keep, to charm away all ill, the lucky sixpence in her pocket still, and we will turn, come fair or cloudy weather, to ashes, like the chestnuts, close together. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Atalanta's Race, from the Earthly Paradise, by William Morris. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Atalanta's Race, from the Earthly Paradise. Atalanta victorious. And there 2 runners did the sign abide, foot set to foot, a young man, slim and fair, crisp-haired, well knit, with firm limbs, often tried, in places where no man his strength may spare. Dainty his thin coat was, and on his hair a golden circlet of renown he wore, and in his hand an olive garland bore. But on this day with whom shall he contend? A maid stood by him, like Diana clad, when in the woods she lists her bow to bend, too fair for one to look on and be glad, who scarcely yet has 30 summers had, if he must still behold her from afar, too fair to let the world live free from war. She seemed all earthly matters to forget, of all tormenting lines her face was clear, her wide grey eyes upon the goal were set, calm and unmoved as though no soul were near, but her foe trembled as a man in fear, nor from her loveliness one moment turned his anxious face with fierce desire that burned. Now through the hush there broke the trumpet's clang, just as the setting sun made eventide. Then from light feet a spurt of dust there sprang, and swiftly were they running side by side. But silent did the thronging folk abide, until the turning post was reached at last, and round about it still abreast they passed. But when the people saw how close they ran, when half way to the starting point they were, a cry of joy broke forth, whereat the man headed the white-foot runner, and drew near unto the very end of all his fear, and scarce his straining feet the ground could feel, and bliss unhoped for over his heart gan steal. But midst the loud victorious shouts he heard her footsteps drawing nearer, and the sound of fluttering raiment, and thereat afeard his flushed and eager face he turned around, and even then he felt her past him bound, fleet as the wind, but scarcely saw her there, till on the goal she laid her fingers fair. There stood she breathing like a little child, amid some warlike clamour laid asleep, for no victorious joy her red lips smiled, her cheek its wonted freshness did but keep, no glance lit up her clear grey eyes and deep, though some divine thought softened all her face, as once more rang the trumpet through the place. But her late foe stopped short amidst his course, one moment gazed upon her piteously, then with a groan his lingering feet did force to leave the spot whence he her eyes could see, and changed like one who knows his time must be but short and bitter, without any word, he knelt before the bearer of the sword. Then high rose up the gleaming deadly blade, bared of its flowers, and through the crowded place was silence now, and midst of it the maid went by the poor wretch at a gentle pace, and he to hers upturned his sad white face, nor did his eyes behold another sight ere on his soul there fell eternal night. Atalanta conquered. Now has the lingering month at last gone by, again are all folk round the running place, nor other seems the dismal pageantry than heretofore, but that another face looks over the smooth course ready for the race. For now, beheld of all, Milanian stands on the spot he twice has looked upon. But yet, what change is this that holds the maid? Does she indeed see in his glittering eye more than disdain of the sharp shearing blade? Some happy hope of help and victory? The others seem to say, "We come to die, look down upon us for a little while, that dead we may bethink us of thy smile." But he, what look of mastery was this he cast on her? Why were his lips so red? Why was his face so flushed with happiness? So looks not one who deems himself but dead, even if to death he bows a willing head. So rather looks a god well pleased to find some earthly damsel fashioned to his mind. Why must she drop her lids before his gaze, and even as she casts adown her eyes, redden to note his eager glance of praise, and wish that she were clad in other guise? Why must the memory to her heart arise of things unnoticed when they first were heard, some lover's song, some answering maiden's word? What makes these longings, vague, without a name, and this vain pity never felt before, this sudden languor, this contempt of fame, this tender sorrow for the time past o'er, these doubts that grow each minute more and more? Why does she tremble as the time grows near, and weak defeat and woeful victory fear? But while she seemed to hear her beating heart, above their heads the trumpet blast rang out, and forth they sprang, and she must play her part. Then flew her white feet, knowing not a doubt, though slackening once, she turned her head about, but then she cried aloud and faster fled than ever before, and all men deemed him dead. But with no sound he raised aloft his hand, and thence what seemed a ray of light there flew, and past the maid rolled on along the sand. Then trembling she her feet together drew, and in her heart a strong desire there grew to have the toy. Some god she thought had given that gift to her, to make of earth a heaven. Then from the course with eager steps she ran, and in her odorous bosom laid the gold. But when she turned again, the great limbed man, now well ahead, she failed not to behold, and mindful of her glory waxing cold, sprang up and followed him in hot pursuit, though with one hand she touched the golden fruit. Note, too, the bow that she was wont to bear she laid aside to grasp the glittering prize, and over her shoulder from the quiver fair 3 arrows fell and lay before her eyes unnoticed, as amidst the people's cries she sprang to head the strong Milanian, who now the turning post had well nigh won. But as he set his mighty hand on it, white fingers underneath his own were laid, and white limbs from his dazzled eyes did flit. Then he the second fruit cast by the maid. But she ran on a while, then, as afraid, wavered and stopped, and turned and made no stay until the globe with its bright fellow lay. Then as a troubled glance she cast around, now far ahead the Argive could she see, and in her garment's hem one hand she wound, to keep the double prize, and strenuously sped o'er the course, and little doubt had she to win the day, though now but scanty space was left betwixt him and the winning place. Short was the way unto such winged feet, quickly she gained upon him, till at last he turned about her eager eyes to meet, and from his hand the third fair apple cast. She wavered not, but turned and ran so fast after the prize that should her bliss fulfill, that in her hand it lay ere it was still. Nor did she rest, but turned about to win once more an unblessed woeful victory. And yet, why does her breath begin to fail her, and her feet drag heavily? Why fails she now to see if far or nigh the goal is? Why do her grey eyes grow dim? Why do these tremors run through every limb? She spreads her arms abroad, some stay to find, else must she fall indeed, and findeth this, a strong man's arms about her body twined. Nor may she shudder now to feel his kiss, so wrapt she is in new unbroken bliss. Made happy that the foe the prize hath won, she weeps glad tears for all her glory done. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Passionate Shepherd to His Love by Christopher Marlowe, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that hills and valleys, dales and fields, woods or craggy mountains yield. And we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers, to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And will I make thee beds of roses, and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers and a kirtle, embroidered all with leaves of myrtle, a gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lambs we pull, fair lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold, a belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral clasps and amber studs. And if these pleasures thee may move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Nymph's Reply by Sir Walter Raleigh, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Sandra Schmit. The Nymph's Reply. If all the world and love were young, and truth in every shepherd's tongue, these pretty pleasures might me move to live with thee and be thy love. Time drives the flocks from field to fold, when rivers rage and rocks grow cold, and Philomel becometh dumb, the rest complain of cares to come. The flowers do fade, and wanton fields to wayward winter reckoning yields. A honey tongue, a heart of gall, is fancy's spring, but sorrow's fall. Thy gown, thy shoes, thy beds of roses, thy cap, the kirtle, and thy posies, soon break, soon wither, soon forgotten, in folly ripe, in reason rotten. Thy belt of straw and ivy buds, thy coral clasps and amber studs, all these in me no means can move to come to thee and be thy love. But could youth last, and love still breed, had choice no date, nor age no need, then these delights my mind might move to live with thee and be thy love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Golden Eyes, from the Greek of Rufinus, translation of Andrew Lang. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. Golden Eyes. Ah, golden eyes, to win you yet, I bring mine April coronet. The lovely blossoms of the spring for you I weave, to you I bring. These roses with the lilies wet, the dewy dark-eyed violet, narcissus, and the windflower wet. Wilt thou disdain mine offering, our golden eyes? Crowned with thy lover's flowers, forget the pride wherein thy heart is set. For thou, like these or anything, hast but thine hour of blossoming, thy spring, and then the long regret, our golden eyes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Phillida and Corydon by Nicholas Breton, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter as the narrator,
Sonia as Phillida,
and Anusha Iyer as Corydon.
Phillida and Corydon. In the merry month of May, in a morn by break of day, with a troop of damsels playing, forth I rode, forsooth, a Maying. When anon by a woodside, whereas May was in his pride, I espied all alone Phillida and Corydon. Much ado there was, God wot, he would love and she would not. She said,
Never man was true.
He says,
None was false to you.
He said he had loved her long. She says,
Love should have no wrong.
Corydon he would kiss her then. She says,
Maids must kiss no man, till they do for good and all.
Then she made the shepherd call all the heavens to witness, truth never loved a truer youth. Thus with many a pretty oath, yea and nay, and faith and troth, such as silly shepherds use when they will not love abuse. Love, which had been long deluded, was with kisses sweet concluded, and Phillida, with garlands gay, was made the lady of the May. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bailiff's Daughter of Islington by Anonymous. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by John Burlinson as the narrator.
Thomas Peter as the squire's son.
And Sonia as the bailiff's daughter.
The Bailiff's Daughter of Islington. There was a youth, and a well-beloved youth, and he was a squire's son. He loved the bailiff's daughter dear, that lived in Islington. Yet she was coy, and would not believe that he did love her so. No, nor at any time would she any countenance to him show. But when his friends did understand his fond and foolish mind, they sent him up to fair London, an apprentice for to bind. And when he had been 7 long years, and never his love could see,
many a tear have I shed for her sake, when she little thought of me.
Then all the maids of Islington went forth to sport and play, all but the bailiff's daughter dear, she secretly stole away. She pulled off her gown of green, and put on ragged attire, and to fair London she would go, her true love to enquire. And as she went along the high road, the weather being hot and dry, she sat her down upon a green bank, and her true love came riding by. She started up with colour so red, catching hold of his bridle rein.
1 penny, 1 penny, kind sir,
she said,
will ease me of much pain.
Before I give you 1 penny, sweetheart, pray tell me where you were born.
At Islington, kind sir,
said she,
where I have had many a scorn.
I prithee, sweetheart, then tell to me, oh tell me whether you know, the bailiff's daughter of Islington.
She is dead, sir, long ago.
If she be dead, then take my horse, my saddle and bridle also, for I will into some far country, where no man shall me know.
O stay, thou goodly youth! She standeth by thy side. She is here alive, she is not dead, and ready to be thy bride.
O farewell grief, and welcome joy, 10,000 times therefore! For now I have found mine own true love, whom I thought I should never see more.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Where Are You Going, My Pretty Maid? By Anonymous. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter as the narrator.
John Burlinson as the man.
And Sonia as the maid.
Where are you going, my pretty maid?
Where are you going, my pretty maid?
I am going a-milking, sir,
she said.
May I go with you, my pretty maid?
You're kindly welcome, sir,
she said.
What is your father, my pretty maid?
My father's a farmer, sir,
she said.
What is your fortune, my pretty maid?
My face is my fortune, sir,
she said.
Then I won't marry you, my pretty maid.
Nobody asked you, sir,
she said. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Eyes, How I Love You by John Godfrey Saxe. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. My Eyes, How I Love You. My eyes, how I love you, ye sweet little dove you. There's no one above you, most beautiful kitty. So glossy your hair is like a sylph's or a fairy's, and your neck, I declare, is exquisitely pretty. Quite Grecian your nose is, and your cheeks are like roses, so delicious, oh Moses, surpassingly sweet. Not the beauty of tulips, nor the taste of mint juleps can compare with your tulips, most beautiful Kate. Not the black eyes of Juno, nor Minerva's of blue, no, nor Venus, you know, can equal your own. Oh, how my heart prances and frolics and dances when their radiant glances upon me are thrown. And now, dearest Kitty, it's not very pretty, indeed it's a pity to keep me in sorrow. So if you'll but chime in, we'll have done with our rhyming, swap Cupid for Hymen, and be married tomorrow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Brookside by Richard Monckton Milnes, Lord Horton. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Brookside. I wandered by the brookside, I wandered by the mill, I could not hear the brook flow, the noisy wheel was still. There was no burr of grasshopper, no chirp of any bird, but the beating of my own heart was all the sound I heard. I sat beneath the elm tree, I watched the long, long shade, and, as it grew still longer, I did not feel afraid, for I listened for a footfall, I listened for a word, but the beating of my own heart was all the sound I heard. He came not, no, he came not, the night came on alone, the little stars sat one by one, each on his golden throne. The evening wind passed by my cheek, the leaves above were stirred, but the beating of my own heart was all the sound I heard. Fast silent tears were flowing, when something stood behind. A hand was on my shoulder, I knew its touch was kind. It drew me nearer, nearer, we did not speak one word, for the beating of our own hearts was all the sound we heard. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Little Red Lark by Alfred Percival Graves. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia.
The Little Red Lark. O swan of slenderness, dove of tenderness, jewel of joys, arise! The little red lark, like a soaring spark of song, to his sunburst flies. But till thou art arisen, earth is a prison, full of my lonesome sighs. Then awake and discover to thy fond lover the morn of thy matchless eyes. The dawn is dark to me. Hark, oh hark to me, pulse of my heart, I pray, and out of thy hiding, with blushes gliding, dazzle me with thy day. Ah, then once more to thee, flying, I'll pour to thee passion so sweet and gay. The larks shall listen, and dewdrops glisten, laughing on every spray. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Love. All thoughts, all passions, all delights, whatever stirs this mortal frame, all are but ministers of love, and feed his sacred flame. Oft in my waking dreams do I live o'er again that happy hour, when midway on the mount I lay beside the ruined tower. The moonshine stealing o'er the scene has blended with the lights of eve, and she was there, my hope, my joy, my own dear Genevieve. She leaned against the armed man, the statue of the armed knight. She stood and listened to my lay, amid the lingering light. Few sorrows hath she of her own, my hope, my joy, my Genevieve. She loves me best whene'er I sing the songs that make her grieve. I played a soft and doleful air, I sang an old and moving story, an old rude song that suited well that ruin wild and hoary. She listened with a flitting blush, with downcast eyes and modest grace, for well she knew I could not choose but gaze upon her face. I told her of the knight that wore upon his shield a burning brand, and that for 10 long years he wooed the lady of the land. I told her how he pined, and the deep, the low, the pleading tone with which I sang another's love, interpreted my own. She listened with a flitting blush, with downcast eyes and modest grace, and she forgave me that I gazed too fondly on her face. But when I told the cruel scorn that crazed that bold and lovely knight, and that he crossed the mountain woods, nor rested day nor night, that sometimes from the savage den, and sometimes from the darksome shade, and sometimes starting up at once in green and sunny glade, there came and looked him in the face an angel beautiful and bright, and that he knew it was a fiend, this miserable knight, and that knowing what he did, he leaped amid a murderous band, and saved from outrage worse than death the lady of the land. And how she wept, and clasped his knees, and how she tended him in vain, and ever strove to expiate the scorn that crazed his brain, and that she nursed him in a cave, and how his madness went away, when on the yellow forest leaves a dying man he lay. His dying words, but when I reached that tenderest strain of all the ditty, my faltering voice and pausing harp disturbed her soul with pity. All impulses of soul and sense had thrilled my guileless Genevieve, the music and the doleful tale, the rich and balmy eve, and hopes and fears that kindle hope, and undistinguishable throng, and gentle wishes long subdued, and cherished long. She wept with pity and delight, she blushed with love and virgin shame, and like the murmur of a dream, I heard her breathe my name. Her bosom heaved, she stepped aside, as conscious of my look she stepped, then suddenly with timorous eye she fled to me and wept. She half enclosed me with her arms, she pressed me with a meek embrace, and bending back her head looked up, and gazed upon my face. 'Twas partly love, and partly fear, and partly 'twas a bashful art that I might rather feel than see the swelling of her heart. I calmed her fears, and she was calm, and told her love with virgin pride, and so I won my Genevieve, my bright and beauteous bride. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Somebody by Anonymous, from the World's Best Poetry Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Somebody. Somebody's courting somebody, somewhere or other tonight. Somebody's whispering to somebody, somebody's listening to somebody, under this clear moonlight, near the bright river's flow, running so still and slow, talking so soft and low, she sits with somebody, pacing the ocean's shore, edged by the foaming roar, words never used before, sound sweet to somebody. Under the maple tree, deep though the shadow be, plain enough they can see, bright eyes has somebody. No one sits up to wait, though she is out so late, all know she's at the gate, talking with somebody. Tiptoe to parlor door, two shadows on the floor, moonlight reveal no more, Susie and somebody. Two sitting side by side, float with the ebbing tide. Thus, dearest, may we glide through life, says somebody. Somewhere, somebody makes love to somebody tonight. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Exchange by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, from the World's Best Poetry Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. The Exchange. We pledged our hearts, my love and I in my arms, the maiden clasping. I could not tell the reason why, but oh, I trembled like an aspen. Her father's love she bade me gain. I went and shook like any reed. I strove to act the man, in vain. We had exchanged our hearts indeed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Love's Logic by Anonymous, from the World's Best Poetry Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by
Anusha Iyer as the girl,
John Burlinson as her respectable papa,
Sandra Schmit as her mother,
Sonia as her eternal friend,
and Thomas Peter as her brother and the narrator. Love's Logic. 1. Her respectable papas.
My dear, be sensible, upon my word. This, for a woman even, is absurd. His income's not £100, I know. He's not worth loving.
but I love him so.
2. Her mothers.
You silly child. He's well made and tall, but looks are far from being all in all. His social standing is low, his family's low. He's not worth loving.
And I love him so.
3. Her eternal friends.
Is that he picking up the fallen fan? My dear, he's such an awkward, ugly man. You must be certain, Pet, to answer no. He's not worth loving.
And I love him so.
4. Her brothers.
By Jove, were I a girl, through horrid hap, I wouldn't have a milk and water chap. The man has not a single spark of go. He's not worth loving.
Yet I love him so.
5. Her own.
And were he everything to which I've listened, though he were ugly, awkward, and he isn't. Poor, low-born, and destitute of go, he is worth loving, for I love him so.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Night Piece by Robert Herrick. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. The Night Piece to Julia. Her eyes the glowworm lend thee, the shooting stars attend thee, and the elves also, whose little eyes glow like the sparks of fire, befriend thee. No will-o'-the-wisp mislight thee, nor snake nor slow-worm bite thee, but on thy way not making stay, since ghost there's none to affright thee. Let not the dark thee cumber. What though the moon does slumber, the stars of the night will lend thee their light, like tapers clear without number. Then, Julia, let me woo thee, thus to come and to me, and when I shall meet thy silvery feet, my soul I'll pour into thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sweet Meeting of Desires, from The Angel in the House by Coventry Patmore, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Sweet Meeting of Desires, from The Angel in the House. I grew assured before I asked that she'd be mine without reserve, and in her unclaimed graces basked at leisure till the time should serve, with just enough of dread to thrill the hope and make it trebly dear, thus loath to speak the word, to kill either the hope or happy fear. Till once, through lanes returning late, her laughing sisters lagged behind, and ere we reached her father's gate, we paused with one presentient mind, and in the dim and perfumed mist their coming stayed, who, blithe and free, and very women, love to assist a lover's opportunity. Twice rose, twice died my trembling word, to faint and frail cathedral chimes spake time in music, and we heard the chafers rustling in the limes. Her dress that touched me where I stood, the warmth of her confided arm, her bosom's gentle neighbourhood, her pleasure and her power to charm, her look, her love, her form, her touch, the least seemed most by blissful turn, blissful but that it pleased too much, and taught the wayward soul to yearn. It was as if a harp with wires was traversed by the breath I drew, and oh, sweet meeting of desires, she, answering, owned that she loved too. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Story of the Gate by T.H. Robertson, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. Story of the Gate. Across the pathway, myrtle-fringed, under the maple it was hinged, the little wooden gate. 'Twas there within the quiet gloam, when I had strolled with Nelly home, I used to pause and wait before I said to her good night, yet loath to leave the winsome sprite within the garden's pale. And there, the gate between us two, we'd linger as all lovers do, and lean upon the rail, and face to face, eyes close to eyes, hands meeting hands in feigned surprise, after a stealthy quest. So close I'd bend, ere she'd retreat, that I'd grow drunken from the sweet tuberose upon her breast. We'd talk, in fitful style I ween, with many a meaning glance between the tender words, and low, we'd whisper some dear, sweet conceit, some idle gossip we'd repeat, and then I'd move to go. Good night, I'd say. Good night, good-bye. Good night, from her with half a sigh. Good night, good night. And then I do not go, but stand, again lean on the railing, and begin it all again. Ah, that was many a day ago, that pleasant summer time. Although the gate is standing yet, a little cranky it may be, a little weather-worn, like me, who never can forget the happy end? My cynic friend, pray save your sneers, there was no end. Watch yonder chubby thing, that is our youngest, hers and mine. See how he climbs, his legs to twine about the gate and the swing. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Doris, a Pastoral by Arthur Joseph Munby. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by John Burlinson as the Swain.
And Sonia as Doris.
Doris, a Pastoral. I sat with Doris, the shepherd maiden. Her crook was laden with wreathed flowers. I sat and wooed her, through sunlight wheeling and shadows stealing, for hours and hours. And she, my Doris, whose lap encloses wild summer roses of sweet perfume, the while I soothed her, kept hushed and hearkened, till shades had darkened from gloss to gloom. She touched my shoulder with fearful finger. She said,
We linger, we must not stay. My flock's in danger, my sheep will wander. Behold them yonder, how far they stray.
I answered bolder, Nay, let me hear you, and still be near you, and still adore. No wolf nor stranger will touch one yearling. Ah, stay, my darling, a moment more. She whispered, sighing,
There will be sorrow beyond tomorrow if I lose today. My fold unguarded, my flock unfolded, I shall be scolded and sent away.
Said I, denying, If they do miss you, they ought to kiss you when you get home, and well rewarded by friend and neighbor should be the labor from which you come.
They might remember,
she answered meekly,
that lambs are weakly and sheep are wild, but if they love me, it's none so fervent. I am a servant and not a child.
Then each hot ember glowed within me, and love did win me to swift reply. Ah, do but prove me, and none shall bind you, nor fray nor find you, until I die. She blushed and started, and stood awaiting, as if debating in dreams divine. But I did brave them. I told her plainly she doubted vainly. She must be mine. So we twin-hearted from all the valley did rouse and rally her nibbling ewes, and homeward drave them, we two together, through blooming heather and gleaming dews. That simple duty fresh grace did lend her, my Doris tender, my Doris true, that I, her warder, did always bless her, and often press her to take her due. And now in beauty she fills my dwelling, with love excelling, and undefiled. And love doth guard her, both fast and fervent, no more a servant, nor yet a child. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Among the Heather by William Ellingham. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sandra Schmit. Among the Heather. One evening walking out, I overtook a modest collen, when the wind was blowing cool, and the harvest leaves were falling. Is our way by chance the same? Might we travel on together? Oh, I keep the mountainside, she replied, among the heather. Your mountain air is sweet when the days are long and sunny, when the grass grows round the rocks, and the wind bloom smells like honey. But the winter's coming fast with its foggy, snowy weather, and you'll find it bleak and chill on your hill among the heather. She praised her mountain home, and I'll praise it too, with reason, for where Molly is, there's sunshine and flowers at every season. Be the moorland black or white, does it signify a feather? Now I know the way by heart, every part among the heather. The sun goes down in haste, and the night falls thick and stormy, yet I'd travel 20 miles to the welcome that's before me, singing Hi for Eskidon, in the teeth of wind and weather. Love will warm me as I go through the snow among the heather. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rory O'Moore, or All for Good Luck, by Samuel Lover, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia as the narrator.
Sandra as Kathleen.
And Thomas Peter as Rory O'Moore.
Rory O'Moore, or All for Good Luck. Young Rory O'Moore courted Kathleen Bawn. He was bold as a hawk, she as soft as the dawn. He wished in his heart pretty Kathleen to please, and he thought the best way to do that was to tease.
Now, Rory, be aisy,
sweet Kathleen would cry, reproof on her lip, but a smile in her eye.
With your tricks, I don't know in troth what I'm about. Faith, you've taste till I've put on my cloak inside out.
Och, Jule,
says Rory,
that same is the way you've treated my heart for this many a day, and 'tis pleased that I am, and why not to be sure, for 'tis all for good luck,
says bold Rory O'Moore.
Indeed, then,
says Kathleen,
don't think of the like, for I half gave a promise to Soothering Mike. The ground that I walk on he loves, I'll be bound.
Faith,
says Rory,
I'd rather love you than the ground.
Now, Rory, I'll cry if you don't let me go. Sure, I dream every night that I'm hating you so.
Och,
says Rory,
that same I'm delighted to hear, for dreams always go by contraries, my dear. So Jewel keep dreaming that same till you die, and bright morning will give dirty nights the black lie. And 'tis pleased that I am, and why not to be sure, since 'tis all for good luck,
says bold Rory O'Moore.
Arrah, Kathleen, my darling, you've teased me enough, since I've thrashed for your sake Dinna Grimes and Jim Duff, and I've made myself drinking your health quite a baste, so I think after that I may talk to the priest.
Then Rory the rogue stole his arm round her neck, so soft and so white, without freckle or speck, and he looked in her eyes that were beaming with light, and he kissed her sweet lips. Don't you think he was right?
Now, Rory, leave off, sir. You'll hug me no more. That's 8 times today that you've kissed me before.
And here goes another,
says he,
to make sure, for there's luck in odd numbers,
says Rory O'Moore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Cooking and Courting by Anonymous, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter as Tom.
And Sonia as Tom's girl.
Cooking and Courting. From Tom to Ned. Dear Ned, no doubt you'll be surprised when you receive and read this letter. I've railed against the marriage state, but then you see I knew no better. I've met a lovely girl out here. Her manner is, well, very winning. We're soon to be, well, Ned, my dear, I'll tell you all from the beginning. I went to ask her out to ride last Wednesday. It was perfect weather. She said she couldn't possibly. The servants had gone off together. Hibernians always rush away at cousins' funerals to be looking. Pies must be made, and she must stay, she said, to do that branch of cooking. "Oh, let me help you," then I cried. "I'll be a cooker too. How jolly!" She laughed and answered with a smile,
All right, but you'll repent your folly, for I shall be a tyrant, sir, and good hard work you'll have to grapple. So sit down there and don't you stir, but take this knife and pare that apple.
She rolled her sleeve above her arm, that lovely arm so plump and rounded. Outside the morning sun shone bright, inside the dough she deftly pounded. Her little fingers sprinkled flour, and rolled the pie crust up in masses. I passed the most delightful hour, mid butter, sugar, and molasses. With deep reflection her sweet eyes gazed on each pot and pan and kettle. She sliced the apples, filled her pies, and then the upper crust did settle. Her rippling waves of golden hair in one great coil were tightly twisted, but locks would break it here and there, and curl about where'er they listed. And then her sleeve came down, and I fastened it up. Her hands were doughy. Oh, it did take the longest time. Her arm, Ned, was so round and snowy. She blushed, and trembled, and looked shy, somehow that made me all the bolder. Her arch lips looked so red that found her head upon my shoulder. We're to be married, Ned, next month. Come and attend the wedding revels. I really think that bachelors are the most miserable devils. You'd better go for some girl's hand, and if you are uncertain whether you dare to make a due demand, why, just try cooking pies together. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Ca the Yows by Isabel Pagan, from the World's Best Poetry Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Ca the Yows. Ca the yows to the knows, ca them where the heather grows, ca them where the burnie rose, my bonny dearie. As I gaed down the water's side, there I met my shepherd lad. He rode me sweetly in his plaid, and he called me his dearie. Will ye gang down the water's side, and see the waves sae sweetly glide beneath the hazels spreading wide, the moon it shines fu' clearly. I was bred up at nae sic school, my shepherd lad to play the fool, and a' the day to sit and dule, and naebody to see me. Ye shall get gowns and ribbons meet, coff leather shoon upon your feet, and in my arms ye's lie and sleep, and ye shall be my dearie. If ye'll but stand to what ye've said, I's gang wi' you, my shepherd lad, and ye may row me in your plaid, and I shall be your dearie. While waters wimple to the sea, while day blinks in the lift sae hie, till clay cold death shall blind me ye aye shall be my dearie. Nows are noes, and rows are rolls. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Sciller Crown by Susanna Blameyer, from the World's Best Poetry Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. The Sciller Crown. And ye still walk in silk attire, and siller hae to spare, gin ye'll consent to be his bride, nor think o' Donald mair. Oh, wha would buy a silken gown, wi' a puir broken heart, or what's to me a siller crown, gin frae my love I part? The mind whose meanest wish is pure, far dearest is to me, and ere I'm forced to break my faith, I'll lay me down and die. For I have vowed a virgin's vow, my lover's fate to share, and he has gi'en to me his heart, and what can man do mair? His mind and manners won my heart, he grateful took the gift, and did I wish to seek it back, it would be waur than theft. The langest life can ne'er repay the love he bears to me, and ere I'm forced to break my faith, I'll lay me down and die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Duncan Gray Came Here to Woo by Robert Burns.
From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. Duncan Gray came here to woo.
Duncan Gray came here to woo, aha, the woonut. On blithe Yule night when we were fou, aha, the woonut. Maggie coosed her head fu high, looked asklant and uncouth sky. Gat poor Duncan stand by, aha, the woonut. Duncan fleeched and Duncan prayed, aha, the woonut. Meg was deaf as Elisa Craig, aha, the woonut. Duncan sighed, baith out and in, grat his in baith bleat and blen. Spak a lopin or a lin, aha, the woonut. Time and chance are but a tide, aha, the woonut. Slighted love is sae to bide, aha, the woonut. Shall I like a fool, quoth he, for a haughty hizzy dee? She may gae to France for me, aha, the woonut. How it comes, let doctors tell, aha, the woonut. Meg grew sick as he grew healed, ha ha, the woonut. Something in her bosom rings, for relief a sigh she brings, and all her hien they speak sick things, aha, the woonut. Duncan was a lad of grace, aha, the woonut. Maggie's was a piteous case, aha, the woonut. Duncan could na be her death, swilling pity smothered his wrath. Now they're crouse and canty baith, aha, the woonut.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
How to Ask and Have by Samuel Lover. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter as the Swain.
And Gaby as Mary.
How to Ask and Have. Oh, 'tis time I should talk to your mother, sweet Mary, says I.
Oh, don't talk to my mother,
says Mary, beginning to cry.
For my mother says men are deceivers, and never, I know, will consent. She says girls in a hurry who marry at leisure repent.
Then suppose I would talk to your father, sweet Mary, says I.
Oh, don't talk to my father,
says Mary, beginning to cry.
For my father, he loves me so dearly, he'll never consent I should go. If you talk to my father,
says Mary,
he'll surely say no.
Then how shall I get you my jewel, sweet Mary, says I, if your father and mother's so cruel, most surely I'll die.
Oh, never say die, dear,
says Mary.
Away now to save you I see, since my parents are both so contrary, you'd better ask me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Live in My Heart and Pay No Rent by Samuel Lover. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Live in my heart and pay no rent. Vornin, when your days were bright, never an eye did I dare to lift to you. But now, in your fortune's blight, false ones are flying in sunshine that knew you. But still on one welcome truly rely, though the crops may fail and the cow go dry, and your cabin be burned and all be spent. Come, live in my heart and pay no rent. Come, come, live in my heart, live in my heart and pay no rent. Come, come, live in my heart, live in my heart, ma Vornin. Vornin, dry up those tears. The sensible people will tell you to wait, dear. But ah, in the wasting of love's young years, on our innocent hearts we're committing a cheat, dear. For hearts when they're young should make the vow, for when they are old they don't know how. So marry at once and you'll not repent, when you live in my heart and pay no rent. Come, come, live in my heart, live in my heart and pay no rent. Come, come, live in my heart, live in my heart, ma Vornin. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Widow Machree by Samuel Lover, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Widow Machree. Widow Machree, it's no wonder you frown. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. Faith, it ruins your looks, that same dirty black gown. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. How altered your air with that close cap you wear, 'tis destroying your hair that should be flowing free. Be no longer at churl of its black silken curl. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. Widow Machree, now the summer is come. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. When everything smiles should a beauty look glum. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. See the birds go in pairs and the rabbits and hares, why even the bears now in couples agree, and the mute little fish, though they can't speak they wish. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. Widow Machree, and when winter comes in, oh-ho! Widow Machree. To be poking the fire all alone is a sin. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. Sure the shovel and tongs to each other belongs, and the kettle sings songs full of family glee. While alone with your cup like a hermit you sup. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. And how do you know what the comforts I've told? Oh-ho! Widow Machree. That you're keeping some poor fellow out in the cold. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. With such sins on your head, sure your peace would be fled, could you sleep in your bed without thinking to see some ghost or some sprite that would wake you at night, crying, Oh-ho! Widow Machree. Then take my advice, darling Widow Machree. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. And with my advice, faith, I wish you'd take me. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. You'd have me to desire, than to stir up the fire, and sure hope is no liar in whispering to me. The ghosts would depart when you'd me near your heart. Oh-ho! Widow Machree. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Widow Malone by Charles Lever, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Widow Malone. Did you hear of the Widow Malone, ochone, who lived in the town of Athlone, alone? Oh, she melted the hearts of the swains in them parts. So lovely the Widow Malone, ochone, so lovely the Widow Malone. Of lovers she had a full score, or more, and fortunes they all had galore in store. From the minister down to the clerk of the crown, all were courting the Widow Malone, ochone, all were courting the Widow Malone. But so modest was Mistress Malone, 'twas known that no one could see her alone, ochone. Let them ogle and sigh, they could ne'er catch her eye. So bashful the Widow Malone, ochone, so bashful the Widow Malone. Till one Mr. O'Brien from Clare, how queer, it's little for blushing they care, down there, put his arm round her waist, gave 10 kisses at least. Oh, says he, you're my Molly Malone, my own, oh, says he, you're my Molly Malone. And the widow they all thought so shy, my eye, never thought of a simper or sigh, for why? But Lucius, says she, since you've now made so free, you may marry a Mary Malone, ochone, you may marry a Mary Malone. There's a moral contained in my song, not wrong, and one comfort it's not very long, but strong. If for widows you die, learn to kiss, not sigh, for they're all like sweet Mistress Malone, ochone, oh, they're all like sweet Mistress Malone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I'm Not Myself at All by Samuel Lover. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Craig Franklin. I'm not myself at all.
Oh, I'm not myself at all, Molly dear, Molly dear. I'm not myself at all. Nothing caring, nothing knowing. 'Tis after you I'm going. Faith, your shadow, 'tis I'm growing. Molly dear, Molly dear. And I'm not myself at all. The other day I went confessing, and I asked the Father's blessing. But says I, don't give me one entirely, for I fretted so last year. But the half of me is here, so give the other half to Molly Braley. Oh, I'm not myself at all, I'm not myself at all, Molly dear, Molly dear. My appetites are small, I once could pick a goose, but my buttons is no use. Faith, my tightest coat is loose, Molly dear. And I'm not myself at all, if thus it is I waste. You'd better, dear, make haste, before your lover's gone away entirely. If you don't soon change your mind, not a bit of me you'll find. And what did you think of that, Molly Braley? Oh, I'm not myself at all. Oh, my shadow on the wall, Molly dear, isn't like myself at all, for I've got so very thin. Myself says 'tisn't him, but the purty girl so slim, Molly dear. And I'm not myself at all, if thus I smaller grew, all fretting, dear, for you. 'Tis you should make up the deficiency, so just like Father Taff, make you my better half. And you'll not the worse for the addition be. Oh, I'm not myself at all. I'll be not myself at all, Molly dear, till you my own I call. Since a change o' me there came, sure you might change your name, and 'twould just come to the same, Molly dear. 'Twould just come to the same. For if you and I were one, all confusion would be gone, and 'twould simplify the matter entirely, and 'twould save us so much bother, when we'd both be one another. So listen now to racing, Molly Braley, or I'm not myself at all.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I prithee send me back my heart, by Sir John Suckling. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer. I prithee send me back my heart. I prithee send me back my heart, since I cannot have thine. For if from yours you will not part, why then shouldst thou have mine? Yet, now I think on it, let it lie. To find it were in vain, for thou'st a thief in either eye, would steal it back again. Why should two hearts in one breast lie, and yet not lodge together? O love, where is thy sympathy, if thus our breasts thou sever? But love is such a mystery, I cannot find it out. For when I think I am best resolved, I then am most in doubt. Then farewell care, and farewell woe, I will no longer pine. For I'll believe I have her heart, as much as she has mine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Love Me Little, Love Me Long, by Anonymous, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Love me little, love me long. Originally printed in 1569. Love me little, love me long, is the burden of my song. Love that is too hot and strong burneth soon to waste. Still, I would not have thee cold, not too backward, nor too bold. Love that lasteth till 'tis old fadeth not in haste. Love me little, love me long, is the burden of my song. If thou lovest me too much, 'twill not prove as true a touch. Love me little more than such, for I fear the end. I'm with little well content, and a little from thee sent is enough, with true intent, to be steadfast friend. Say thou lovest me, while thou live, I to thee my love will give, never dreaming to deceive, while that life endures. Nay, and after death in sooth, I to thee will keep my truth, as now, when in my May of youth. This my love assures. Constant love is moderate ever, and it will through life persever. Give me that with true endeavour I will it restore. A suit of durance let it be for all weathers, that for me, for the land or for the sea, lasting evermore. Winter's cold or summer's heat, autumn's tempests on it beat, it can never know defeat, never can rebel. Such the love that I would gain, such the love, I tell thee plain, thou must give, or woo in vain. So to thee, farewell. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Courtin' by James Russell Lowell. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by John Burlinson as the narrator.
Thomas Peter as Zekel.
And Sonia as Huldy.
The Courtin'. God makes such nights so white and still, for as you can look or listen. Moonshine and snow on field and hill, all silence and all glisten. Zekel crept up quite unbeknown, and peeked in through the winder, and there sat Huldy all alone, with no one nigh to hinder. A fireplace filled the room's one side, with half a cord o' wood in. There warn't no stoves till comfort died to bake ye to a puddin'. The walnut logs shot sparkles out towards the puttiest, bless her, and leetle flames danced all about the chiny on the dresser. Agin the chimbley crook-necks hung, and in amongst them rusted the old queen's arm that Grantha Young fetched back from Concord busted. The very room 'cause she was in seemed warm from floor to ceiling, and she looked full as rosy agin as the apple she was peeling. 'Twas kind the kingdom come to look on such a blessed creetur. A dog rose blushing to a brook ain't modester nor sweeter. He was 6 foot a man, one, clean grit and human natur. None couldn't quick a pitch a ton, nor draw a furrow straighter. He'd sparked it with full 20 gals, had squired 'em, danced 'em, druv 'em, first this one and then that by spells. All is, ye couldn't love 'em. But long o' her his veins had run, all crinkly like curled maple. The side she breast felt full o' sun as the south slope in April. She thought no vice had such a swing as his'n in the choir. My, when he made Old Hundred ring, she knowed the Lord was nigher. And she'd blush scarlet right in prayer when her new meetin' bonnet felt somehow through its crown a pair of blue eyes sot upon it. That night, I tell ye, she looked some. She seemed to have got a new soul, for she felt sartin sure he'd come down to her very shoe sole. She heard a foot, and knowed it too, a raspin' on the scraper. Always to once her feelin's flew like sparks in burnt-up paper. He kind o' littered on the mat, some doubtful of the seckle. His heart kept goin' pitty-pat, but her'n went pitty-zeckle. And yet she gin her cheer a jerk as though she wished him further, and on her apples kept a work, paring away like murder.
You want to see my pa, s'pose?
Well, no, I come designin'.
To see Mamma? She's sprinklin' clothes, agin tomorrow sinning.
To say why gals act so or don't, 'ud be presumin'. Mebbe to mean yes and say no comes natural to women. He stood a spell on one foot first, then stood a spell on t'other, and on which one he felt the worst, he couldn't have told ye nother. Says he,
I'd better call again.
Says she,
Think likely, mister.
That last word pricked him like a pin, and, well, he up and kissed her. When Ma by upon him slips, Huldy sot pale as ashes, all kind o' smiley round the lips, and teary round the lashes. For she was just the quiet kind whose naturs never vary, like streams that keep a summer mind snow-hid in January. The blood close round her heart felt glued too tight for all expressin', till mother see how matters stood and gin 'em both her blessin'. Then her red come back like the tide down to the Bay of Fundy, and all I know is they was cried and meetin' come next Sunday. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Popping Corn by Anonymous. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sandra as the narrator,
Thomas Peter as John Styles,
and Sonia as Susan Cutter.
Popping Corn, from Famous Single and Fugitive Poems. Rossitha Johnson, editor. Henry Hold and Co., publishers. And there they sat, a-popping corn, John Styles and Susan Cutter, John Styles as fat as any ox, and Susan fat as butter. And there they sat and shelled the corn, and raked and stirred the fire, and talked of different kinds of corn, and hitched their chairs up nigher. Then Susan she the popper shook, then John he shook the popper, till both their faces grew as red as saucepans made of copper. And then they shelled and popped and ate, all kinds of fun a-poking, while he haw-hawed at her remarks, and she laughed at his joking. And still they popped, and still they ate. John's mouth was like a hopper, and stirred the fire and sprinkled salt, and shook the popper. The clock struck 9, the clock struck 10, and still the corn kept popping. It struck 11, and then struck 12, and still no signs of stopping. And John he ate, and Sue she thought. The corn did pop and patter, till John cried out,
"The corn's afire! Why, Susan, what's the matter?"
Said she,
John Styles, it's 1 o'clock. You'll die of indigestion. I'm sick of all this poppin' corn. Why don't you pop the question?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Friar of Orders Grey by Thomas Percy, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer as the narrator,
Sonia as the lady,
and Thomas Peter as the friar.
The Friar of Orders Grey, adapted from old ballads. It was a friar of orders grey, walked forth to tell his beads, and he met with a lady fair, clad in a pilgrim's weeds.
Now Christ thee save, thou reverend friar, I pray thee tell to me, if ever at yon holy shrine my true love thou didst see.
And how should I know your true love from any another one?
Oh, by his cockle hat and staff, and by his sandal shoon, but chiefly by his face and mien that were so fair to view, his flaxen locks that sweetly curled, and eyes of lovely blue.
Oh, lady, he is dead and gone, lady, he's dead and gone, and at his head a green grass turf, and at his heels a stone. Within these holy cloisters long he languished, and he died, lamenting of a lady's love, and plaining of her pride. Here bore him barefaced on his bier 6 proper youths in tall, and many a tear bedewed his grave within yon kirkyard wall.
And art thou dead, thou gentle youth? And art thou dead and gone? And didst thou die for love of me? Break, cruel heart of stone.
Oh, weep not, lady, weep not so, some ghostly comfort seek. Let not vain sorrow rive thy heart, nor tears bedew thy cheek.
Oh, do not, holy friar, my sorrow now reprove, for I have lost the sweetest youth that ever won lady's love. And now, alas, for thy sad loss I'll evermore weep and sigh. For thee I only wish to live, for thee I wish to die.
Weep no more, lady, weep no more, thy sorrow is in vain, for violets plucked the sweetest showers will ne'er make grow again. Our joys as winged dreams do fly, why then should sorrow last? Since grief but aggravates thy loss, grieve not for what is past.
Oh, say not so, thou holy friar, I pray thee, say not so. For since my true love died for me, 'tis meet my tears should flow. And will he never come again? Will he never come again? Ah no, he is dead, and laid in his grave, forever to remain. His cheek was redder than the rose, the comeliest youth was he, but he is dead, and laid in his grave. Alas, and woe is me!
Sigh no more, lady, sigh no more, men were deceivers ever. One foot on sea and one on land, to one thing constant never. Hadst thou been fond, he had been false, and left thee sad and heavy. For young men ever were fickle found, since summer trees were leafy.
Now say not so, thou holy friar, I pray thee, say not so. My love, he had the truest heart, oh, he was ever true. And art thou dead, thou much loved youth, and didst thou die for me? Then farewell home, for evermore a pilgrim I will be. But first upon my true love's grave my weary limbs I'll lay, and thrice I'll kiss the green grass turf that wraps his breathless clay.
Yet stay, fair lady, rest awhile beneath this cloister wall. The cold wind through the hawthorn blows, and drizzly rain doth fall.
Oh, stay me not, thou holy friar, oh, stay me not, I pray. No drizzly rain that falls on me can wash my fault away.
Yet stay, fair lady, turn again and dry those pearly tears. For see, beneath this gown of grey, thy own true love appears. Here forced by grief and hopeless love these holy weeds I sought, and here amid these lonely walls to end my days I thought. But haply, for my year of grace is not yet passed away, might I still hope to win thy love, no longer would I stay.
Now farewell grief, and welcome joy once more unto my heart. For since I have found thee, lovely youth, we never more will part.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Hermit, from the Vicar of Wakefield, by Oliver Goldsmith. From The World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Anusha Iyer as the narrator,
Sonia as the stranger,
and Craig Franklin as the hermit.
The Hermit, from the Vicar of Wakefield.
Turn, gentle hermit of the dale, and guide my lonely way to where yon taper cheers the vale with hospitable ray. For here forlorn and lost I tread, with fainting steps and slow, where whiles, immeasurably spread, seem lengthening as I go.
Forbear, my son,
The Hermit cries,
to tempt the dangerous gloom, for yonder faithless phantom flies to lure thee to thy doom. Here, to the houseless child of want, my door is open still, and though my portion is but scant, I give it with good will. Then turn to-night, and freely share whate'er my cell bestows, my rusty couch and frugal fare, my blessing and repose. No flocks that range the valley free to slaughter I condemn. Taught by that power that pities me, I learn to pity them. But from the mountain's grassy side a guiltless feast I bring, a scrip with herbs and fruits supplied, and water from the spring. Then, pilgrim, turn, thy cares forego, all earth-born cares are wrong. Man wants but little here below, nor wants that little long.
Soft as the dew from heaven descends, his gentle accents fell. The modest stranger lowly bends, and follows to the cell. Far in a wilderness obscure, the lonely mansion lay, a refuge to the neighboring poor, and strangers led astray. No stores beneath its humble thatch required a master's care. The wicket, opening with a latch, received the harmless pair. And now when busy crowds retire to take their evening rest, the hermit trimmed his little fire, and cheered his pensive guest, and spread his vegetable store, and gaily pressed and smiled, and, skilled in legendary lore, the lingering hours beguiled. Around, in sympathetic mirth, its tricks the kitten tries. The cricket chirrups on the hearth, the crackling faggot flies. But nothing could a charm impart to soothe the stranger's woe, for grief was heavy at his heart, and tears began to flow. His rising cares the hermit spied, with answering care oppressed.
And whence, unhappy youth,
he cried,
the sorrows of thy breast? From better habitations spurned, reluctant dost thou rove, or grieve for friendship unreturned, or unregarded love? Alas, the joys that fortune brings are trifling and decay, and those who prize the paltry things, more trifling still than they. And what is friendship but a name, a charm that lulls to sleep, a shade that follows wealth or fame, and leaves the wretch to weep? And love is still an empty sound, the modern fair one's jest, on earth unseen or only found to warm the turtle's nest. For shame, fond youth, thy sorrows hush, and spurn thy sex,
he said, but while he spoke, a rising blush his lovelorn guest betrayed. Surprised, he sees new beauties rise, swift mantling to the view, like colours over the morning skies, as bright, as transient too. The bashful look, the rising breast, alternate spread alarms. The lovely stranger stands confessed, a maid in all her charms.
And forgive a stranger rude, a wretch forlorn,
she cried,
whose feet unhallowed thus intrude where heaven and you reside. But let a maid thy pity share, whom love has taught to stray, who seeks for rest, but finds despair companion of her way. My father lived beside the Tyne, a wealthy lord was he, and all his wealth was marked as mine, he had but only me. To win me from his tender arms, unnumbered suitors came, who praised me for imputed charms, and felt, or feigned, a flame. Each hour a mercenary crowd with richest proffers strove. Among the rest young Edwin bowed, but never talked of love. In humble simplest habit clad, no wealth or power had he, wisdom and worth were all he had, but these were all to me. And when beside me in the dale he carolled lays of love, his breath lent fragrance to the gale, and music to the grove. The blossom opening to the day, the dews of heaven refined, could naught of purity display to emulate his mind. The dew, the blossoms of the tree, with charms inconstant shine, their charms were his, but, woe to me, their constancy was mine. For still I tried each fickle art, importunate and vain, and while his passion touched my heart, I triumphed in his pain. Till quite dejected with my scorn, he left me to my pride, and sought a solitude forlorn in secret, where he died. But mine the sorrow, mine the fault, and well my life shall pay. I'll seek the solitude he sought, and stretch me where he lay. And there, forlorn, despairing, hid, I'll lay me down and die. 'Twas so for me that Edwin did, and so for him will I.
Forbid it, heaven!
The hermit cried, and clasped her to his breast. The wondering fair one turned to chide. 'Twas Edwin's self that pressed.
Turn, Angelina, ever dear, My charmer, turn to see thine own, thy long lost Edwin here, restored to love and thee. Thus let me hold thee to my heart, and every care resign, and shall we never, never part, my life, my all that's mine. No, never from this hour to part, will live and love so true, the sigh that rends thy constant heart shall break thy Edwin's too.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Laird o' Cockpen by Carolina Oliphant, Baroness Nairn, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter as the narrator,
Craig Franklin as the Laird of Cockpen,
and Sonia as Mistress Jean.
The Laird o' Cockpen. The Laird o' Cockpen, he's proud and he's great, his mind is ta'en up with the things o' the state. He wanted a wife his braw house to keep, but favour wi' woon was feshest to seek. Down by the dyke side a lady did dwell, at his table he thought she looked well. McClishy's a daughter o' clever sae lee, a penniless lass wi' lang pedigree. His wig was well powdered, and good as one new, his waistcoat was white, his coat it was blue. He put on a ring, a sword, and cocked hat, and wha could refuse the laird wi' all that? He took the grey mare, and rade cannily, and rapped the yet o' clever sae lee.
Gae tell Mistress Jean to come speedily ben. She's wanted to speak with the Laird of Cockpen.
Mistress Jane she was making the elderflower wine.
And what brings the laird at sich a like time?
She put off her apron and on her silk gown, her much wi' red ribbons, and gaed away down. And when she came in, he bowed full low, at what was his errand he soon let her know. Amazed was the laird when the lady said,
"Na,"
and wi' a left curtsy she turned away. Dumbfoundered he was, but nae side did he gie. He mounted his mare, and rade cannily, and aften he thought as he gaed through the glen,
She's daft to refuse the Laird of Cockpen.
And now that the laird his exit had made, Mistress Jean she reflected on what she had said.
"Oh, for an I'll get better, it's war I get 10. I was daft to refuse the laird o' Cockpen."
Next time that the laird and the lady were seen, they were gone arm in arm to the kirk on the green. Now she sits in the hay like a wheel tappet hen, but as yet there's nae chickens appeared at Cockpen. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Othello's Defence, from Othello, Act 1, Scene 3, by William Shakespeare, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Othello's Defence, from Othello, Act 1, Scene 3. Most potent, grave, and reverend signors, my very noble and approved good masters, that I have ta'en away this old man's daughter, it is most true. True, I have married her. The very head and front of my offending hath this extent, no more. Rude am I in my speech, and little blessed with the soft phrase of peace, for since these arms of mine had 7 years' pith, till now some 9 moons wasted, they have used their dearest action in the tented field, and little of this great world can I speak, more than pertains to feats of broil and battle, and therefore little shall I grace my cause in speaking for myself. Yet, by your gracious patience, I will a round unvarnished tale deliver of my whole course of love. What drugs, what charms, what conjuration, and what mighty magic, for such proceeding I am charged withal, I won his daughter. I'll present how I did thrive in this fair lady's love, and she in mine. Her father loved me, oft invited me, still questioned me the story of my life from year to year, the battles, sieges, fortunes that I have passed. I ran it through, even from my boyish days, to the very moment that he bade me tell it, wherein I spake of most disastrous chances, of moving accidents by flood and field, of hairbreadth scapes i' the imminent deadly breach, of being taken by the insolent foe and sold to slavery, of my redemption thence, and portents in my travels' history, wherein of Andes vast, and deserts idle, rough quarries, rocks, and hills whose heads touch heaven, it was my hint to speak. Such was the process, and of the cannibals that each other eat, the anthropophagi, and men whose hands do grow beneath their shoulders. This to hear would Desdemona seriously incline, but still the house affairs would draw her thence, whichever as she could with haste dispatch, she'd come again and with a greedy ear devour up my discourse. Which I observing, took one suppliant hour, and found good means to draw from her a prayer of earnest heart, that I would all my pilgrimage dilate, whereof by parcels she had something heard, but not intentively. I did consent, and often did beguile her of her tears, when I did speak of some distressful stroke that my youth suffered. My story being done, she gave me for my pains a world of sighs. She swore, in faith 'twas strange, 'twas passing strange, 'twas pitiful, 'twas wondrous pitiful. She wished she had not heard it, yet she wished that heaven had made her such a man. She thanked me, and bade me, if I had a friend that loved her, I should teach her how to tell my story, and that would woo her. Upon this hint I spake. She loved me for the dangers I had passed, and I loved her that she did pity them. This only is the witchcraft I have used. Here comes the lady. Let her witness it. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Earl of Quarterdeck, a New Old Ballad, by George MacDonald, from the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1, read for LibriVox.org by Sonia as the narrator.
Thomas Peter as the skipper.
Craig Franklin as the king.
And Anusha Iyer as the king's daughter.
The Earl of Quarterdeck, a New Old Ballad. The wind it blew, and the ship it flew, and it was hey for ham and ho for ham, but the skipper cried,
Howder out to the salt sea fame.
Then up and spoke the king himself.
Hold on for Dunfermline,
quo the skipper.
You're king upon the land, I'm king upon the brine.
And he took the helm into his hand, and he steered the ship affray. With the wind astarn he crowded sail, and stood right out to sea. Quo the king,
There's treason in this I vow. There is something underhand. Bout ship.
Quo the skipper,
Your grace forgets you're king but of the land.
And still he held to the open sea, and the east wind sank behind, and the west had a bitter word to say, with the white sea roaring wind. And he turned her head into the north. Said the king,
Ga fling him o'er.
Quo the fearless skipper,
It's a your worth, you'll ne'er see Scotland more.
The king crept down the cabin stair to drink the good French wine, and up she came, his daughter fair, and looked over the brine. She turned her face to the driving hail, to the hail butt and the wheat. Her snood it brack, and as lang's hersel, her hair drave out in the sleet. She turned her face for the driving wind.
What's that ahead?
Quoth she. The skipper he threw himself for the wind, and he drove the helm a lee.
Put to your hand, my lady fair, put to your hand.
Quoth he.
Gin she dinna face the wind the mare, it's the war for you and me.
For the skipper kent that strength is strength, whether woman's or man's at last. To the tiller the lady she laid her hand, and the ship laid her cheek to the blast. For that slender body was full of soul, and the will is mere than shape, as the skipper saw when they cleared the berg, and he heard her quarter scrape. Quoth the skipper,
Ye are a lady fair, and a princess grand to see, but ye are a woman, and a man would sail to hell in your company.
She lifted a pale and queenly face, her e'en flashed and signed his swim.
And what for no to heaven?
She says, and she turned awa fra him. But she took na her hand fra the good ship's helm, until the day did dawn, and the skipper his back, but what he said, it was said atween them twa. And then the good ship she lay to, with the land far on the lee, and up came the king upon the deck, with one face and bloodshot ee. The skipper he louted to the king,
Gie wa, gie wa.
Said the king. Said the king like a prince.
I was a wrang. Put on this ruby ring.
And the wind blew lone, and the stars came out, and the ship turned to the shore, and afore the sun was up again, they saw Scotland and some more. That day the ship hung at the pier head, and the king he stepped on the land.
Skipper, kneel down.
The king he said,
Who do ye afore me stand?
The skipper he louted on his knee, the king his blade he drew. Said the king,
How dared ye contra me? I'm aboard my ain ship noo. I canna make ye a king,
said he,
for the Lord alone can do that. And beside ye look it until ye ain han, and croon ye say pat. But wi' what ye will I redeem my ring, for ance I'm at your beck. And first, as ye looted skipper or doon, rise up yale or quarter deck.
The skipper he rose and looked at the king, in his een for all his croon. Said the skipper,
Here is your grace's ring, and your daughter is my boon.
The red blood sprang into the king's face, a wrathful man to see.
The rascal loon abuses our grace, gie hang him upon yon tree.
But the skipper he sprang aboard his ship, and he drew his biting blade, and he struck the chain that held her fast, but the iron was over well made. And the king he blew a whistle loud, and tramp down the pier came 20 riders on 20 steeds, clanking with spur and spear.
He saved your life,
cried the lady fair.
His life ye durna spill.
Will ye come atween me and my hate?
Quoth the lady,
In that I will.
And on come the knights with spur and spear, for they heard the iron ring.
Gin ye ken there for your father's grace, mind ye that I am the king.
I kneel to my father for his grace, right lowly on my knee. But I stand and look the king in the face, for the skipper is king o' me.
She turned and she sprang upon the deck, and the cable splashed in the sea. The good ship spread her wings so wide, and away with the skipper goes she. Now was not this a king's daughter, and a brave lady beside, and a woman with whom a man might sail into the heaven with pride? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Aux Italiens by Robert Bulwer Lytton. Owen Meredith. From the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2. Love, Part 1. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Aux Italiens. At Paris it was, at the opera there, and she looked like a queen in a book that night, with the wreath of pearl in her raven hair, and the brooch on her breast so bright. Of all the operas that Verdi wrote, the best, to my taste, is the Trovatori, and Mario can soothe, with a tenor note, the souls in purgatory. The moon on the tower slept soft as snow, and who was not thrilled in the strangest way as we heard him sing while the gas burned low, Non ti scordar di me. The emperor there, in his box of state, looked grave, as if he had just then seen the red flag wave from the city gate, where his eagles in bronze had been. The empress, too, had a tear in her eye. You'd have said that her fancy had gone back again, for one moment, under the old blue sky, to the old glad life in Spain. Well, there in our front row box we sat, together, my bride betrothed and I. My gaze was fixed on my opera hat, and hers on the stage hard by. And both were silent and both were sad, like a queen she leaned on her full white arm, with that regal indolent air she had, so confident of her charm. I have not a doubt she was thinking then of her former lord, good soul that he was, who died the richest and roundest of men, the Marquis of Carabas. I hope that, to get to the kingdom of heaven, through a needle's eye he had not to pass. I wish him well for the jointure given to my lady of Carabas. Meanwhile I was thinking of my first love, as I had not been thinking of aught for years.
till over my eyes there began to move something that felt like tears. I thought of the dress that she wore last time when we stood 'neath the cypress trees together, in that lost land, in that soft clime, in the crimson evening weather. Of that muslin dress, for the eve was hot, and her warm white neck in its golden chain, and her full soft hair just tied in a knot, and falling loose again. And the jasmine flower in her fair young breast, oh, the faint sweet smell of that jasmine flower! And the one bird sings alone to his nest, and the one star over the tower. I thought of our little quarrels and strife, and the letter that brought me back my ring, and it all seemed then in the waste of life such a very little thing. For I thought of her grave below the hill, which the sentinel cypress tree stands over, and I thought, were she only living still, how I could forgive her and love her. And I swear as I thought of her thus in that hour, and of how after all old things are best, that I smelt the smell of that jasmine flower which she used to wear in her breast. It smelt so faint, and it smelt so sweet, it made me creep, and it made me cold, like the scent that steals from the crumbling sheet where a mummy is half unrolled. And I turned and looked, she was sitting there, in a dim box over the stage, and dressed in that muslin dress with that full soft hair, and that jasmine in her breast. I was here, and she was there, and the glittering horseshoe curved between, from my bride betrothed with her raven hair, and her sumptuous scornful mien, to my early love with her eyes downcast, and over her primrose face the shade, in short, from the future back to the past, there was but a step to be made. To my early love from my future bride one moment I looked, then I stole to the door, I traversed the passage, and down at her side I was sitting a moment more. My thinking of her, or the music's strain, or something which never will be expressed, had brought her back from the grave again, with the jasmine in her breast. She is not dead, and she is not wed, but she loves me now, and she loved me then, and the very first word that her sweet lips said, my heart grew youthful again. The Marchioness there of Carabas, she is wealthy and young, and handsome still, and but for her, well, we'll let that pass, she may marry whomever she will. But I will marry my own first love, with her primrose face, for old things are best, and the flower in her bosom, I prize it above the brooch in my lady's breast. The world is filled with folly and sin, and love must cling where it can, I say, for beauty is easy enough to win, but one isn't loved every day. And I think in the lives of most women and men, there's a moment when all would go smooth and even, if only the dead could find out when to come back and be forgiven. But oh, the smell of that jasmine flower, and oh, that music, and oh, the way that voice rang out from the dungeon tower. Non ti scordar di me, non ti scordar di me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of the World's Best Poetry, Volume 2, Love, Part 1.